I want to show you something I've been working on for the last months. It isn't ready yet, but I want to show it anyways. We're going to convert this blog post into this one. We are using a fake blog built with Next.js. It's a fork of the official blog starter from the Next.js repo, but with MDX instead of Markdown. Let's start by adding this Scrollycoding package. As you can see, the version number doesn't look very stable. Next, we go to app.js to include the default styles for the Scrollycoding components. And then we add some boilerplate with the components we want to access from the MDX. When you work with MDX, you usually have a file like this where you include your own components. Once we have that, we can go to any of the posts and start using the hike component. The syntax works like this. We need a hike element, and inside we put step head element for each step. Inside the step head goes the code, and after that we can put any markdown. That will be the step content, and the same for the next step. We save the file, and we should see this thing on the browser that changes the step as we scroll. Now let's go to the post we saw at the start of the video. It's another fake post about a library called React SVG curves. We create another hike, this time with 3 steps, and copy the content and the code. When we save the file, we should see the hike as before. This time there's an error because we are using an external library for the demo. No problem, we can add it as a dependency here on the hike component. We are using the code sandbox bundler behind the scenes, so the error should be fixed now. Each step can have a focus prop to highlight different parts of the code when the step is selected. For example, for the second step, we want to focus on line 20. And for the last one, the focus should be from line 17 to 22. Now suppose that in the text I mention something about the points variable. I can add a link to that part of the code, and when I save this, there will be a small icon here that we can click to change the focus. Let's add one more. This is also very useful when you have more than one file. So let's add another file. And now I can add a link to a specific part of that file. We can also change the style of any element. Most code hike elements come with a class, so we can use plain CSS, but we can also use CSS in JS, or in the case of this blog, we are using Tailwind. Let's say we want to change the opacity of the inactive steps. First, we inspect the class and copy it. And then we need a classes object. Use the original class as the key and pass any custom class as the value. Finally, we pass the object as a prop in the hike component. We also don't need the border anymore, so we remove it. And we can change the style for the right part too. Let's change the color of the three little buttons. Now let's change the zoom to see what happens when there isn't space for the right column. It disappears. If we want to show the code or the demo on small screens, we need to do it explicitly. We use the code slot element to display the code. We can change the height if we want. And we use the preview slot to display the preview. For this one, we can change the zoom if we want. These slots are only shown on small screens, so if we zoom out, the right column is back and the slots disappeared. One last thing, I mentioned that we are using the Code Sandbox bundler. So we have a link here that takes us directly to a Code Sandbox that has the code and files that come from the MDX. And here we can edit it or do whatever we want. All these things are part of a bigger project called CodeHike, and I hope to have more news soon. This is my first YouTube video and I'm not sure if there will be more, so like and subscribe. This could be your only chance.